Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be Christians. Don't let them read Bibles and pray on their knees. Protect them from Christians' mental disease. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be Christians. Good evening. It's Sunday, August 24th, 2008. My name is David Mills, and I'm singing you a little country song from out in the country. I'm speaking from Huntington, West Virginia, the heart of the Bible Belt. I'm author of the book, Atheist Universe. And many people tell me in email that it seems rather incongruous that someone from West Virginia, who obviously has a Southern Appalachian accent, should be an atheist. But actually it's not so hard to understand, because I grew up here, and as many of you can relate, you're inundated, you're completely saturated with religion. And so it's not at all uncommon for someone to rebel to the point where he finally starts to question whether the Bible's true, whether Christianity's true. What I'd like to do for you in a few moments is to let you hear a radio program that I participated in about 2 weeks ago in Clarksburg at WAJR. Now, even though I've done many radio and television interviews about the book over the last couple of years, I have deliberately not done any in West Virginia, my home state. And there are two reasons for this. First of all, West Virginia is completely Christian, 97% I saw of the last statistics. So I'm not going to sell any books here. Nobody's going to listen. I'm just pissing in the wind. The second reason I never did a local interview was because of what I dubbed in an article a couple of years ago, the Nazareth effect. Now that refers to Jesus growing up, allegedly, in the city of Nazareth, where nobody paid any attention to him because he was just one of the locals. So no matter how far-reaching your readership might be across the country or across the world, people in your own location are always going to view you as some local person because you are a local person. But I received an invitation from a gentleman named Reuben Perdue, who's the news director at WAJR. He made me a very good offer. They provided me very lavish accommodations. In fact, the best hotel I ever stayed in was just a couple of weeks ago at their expense. But Reuben was very knowledgeable, very courteous, and as you'll hear in the interview, Reuben knew as much about the arguments as I did. In fact, after the show, we had lunch together for about 3 hours, after which I took out paper and pencil and made notes on some of the things that Reuben said, because he had proffered arguments against Christianity that I'd never considered before. So the first half of the show was very cordial, very friendly, somewhat like Meet the Press. It was a very convivial atmosphere and very pleasurable. No big deal. It's happened a lot before. But what made this show a little bit different, and that's why I'm wanting you to hear this, is that Reuben then opened the phone lines. And we had some viewer, or should I say listener, phone-in questions from right here in West Virginia. There was a gentleman who claimed he could heal amputees that he had seen missing limbs regenerated. I was threatened. Reuben was threatened over the air, and I'll let you listen for yourself. I'm alone here in West Virginia. I, until fairly recently, was myself married to a Baptist fundamentalist. She was a fine person. I have nothing unkind to say about her. But we were not compatible. I've yet to meet anyone else, so if you are an available, free-thinking female, you know where I am. I hope you enjoy the show, the radio show. If you do, send Reuben an email. Thank him for being so friendly to the atheist cause. He's suffered more than his fair share of criticism for having me on, and I hope that you will thank him for supporting our cause. Almost hell, West Virginia. Let's see. I'm going to have to put some graphic on the screen. Put my hat. Put the book.
From the WAJR FM newsroom, here's Reuben Perdue.
Good morning. You know the routine. 623-3865 is our phone number. Email inbox is rperdue@wvradio.com. And it's the show we've been talking about and promoting for the last week. Joining me in studio today to discuss the topic of religion is renowned atheist author David Mills, and he's published 3 books now. Perhaps the leading one, or the one most familiar to our listeners, would be Atheist Universe. Was that your first book or your second? Atheist Universe was your second book, wasn't it?
That was the third book.
That was the third book.
I wrote my first book in 1979 when I was just 19 years old, and went about 15 more years before writing another, the second. And then Atheist Universe came out in 2004.
Well, you've done several national radio appearances. I appreciate you coming over here to do to appear on our little corner of the world here in Clarksburg today. It's been a hot topic on this show before when we've talked about religion. I suspect we'll have plenty of phone calls and emails here today. So if I look like I'm multitasking, it's not that I'm not paying attention. I'm checking our phone lines and I'm checking our email inbox over here to my left and to my right. The phone lines are open. So is our email inbox. If you have questions or would like to maybe engage in discussion with Mr. Mills here today, we will certainly open up and take your phone calls and emails at any point. Let's first start by talking, David, about well, I guess let's just lay the framework. You're born and raised here in West Virginia, I believe, a pretty Christian state. At what point, how do you come to the conclusion and make the step and the jump in your life to make the declaration that you're now an atheist?
Well, like many people in the state, I was born and brought up Baptist. Lived in Huntington, still live in Huntington. And for about the first 15 years of my life, I was a pretty typical Baptist. Then when I began high school, I started associating with some individuals who were very charismatic, very evangelical in their religious beliefs. And that was contagious. And so I joined the Campus Crusade for Christ and was found at lunchtime at high school passing out religious tracts. And I even considered going into the ministry as a missionary. And in order to gather ammunition to hopefully share the gospel, to prove the gospel, to convert others to Christ, I started doing research. But the more I read and the more I found out about the subject, the less convinced I was of the validity of the Bible. And it was a period, perhaps 2.5 years thereafter, that I became an atheist. It wasn't an overnight event like the road to Damascus.
So you kind of went from one extreme to the other.
Yes.
And is it your experience that most people who have come out and announced themselves as atheists have gone down a similar road or have gone in that sort of extreme transition?
Yes, almost without exception. Now, Ellen Johnson, who's head of American Atheists, has always been an atheist. She was reared by atheist parents. But Dan Barker, for example, who's head of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, recently had a case before the Supreme Court. He was a fundamentalist pastor. And almost without exception, readers of my book were former religious devotees.